Welcome to the Daily Sales Show hosted by Sell Better. We do one of these every single day, and this one is going to be a fun one. We're doing cold emails in 30 minutes, and joining me to break down this topic, we've got Nick. Said I was going to try the Polish pronunciation of your surname, but I'm not going to attempt it now. Palash? Did I get that right?
Pawash in Polish, Palaz in English.
There you go. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show. Looking forward to sharing some insights in 30 minutes. I want to make this as action-packed as possible. So all of the sales reps, all of the SDR managers and leaders and IT deliverability professionals can get something out of this.
Oh, love to hear it, mate. And you're not going to big yourself up, but I'll big you up for you. Nick runs an agency. You do outbound work for clients across multiple industries. So he is a pro at seeing what works, not just for his own work and his own outreach, but across several different clients that he works with as well. So super excited. Want to say a big thank you to our partners. We've got P Club. If you don't know who P Club are, the Chris Orlov's training organization. They offer courses and developments for both sales reps and sales teams. Go check them out. And if you don't know who Zoom Info is, they know who you are because they have got a ton of contact details available pretty much for everyone across the industries. They're not just contact data sourcing, but they also provide AI tools to help you identify and build lead lists automatically. Today's agenda, we're going to be talking on about kind of mistakes with your cold emails, ways you can get them delivered, and then run through some best practice frameworks for both emails, the follow-ups, and your subject lines as well to make sure your emails are getting opened and responded to. I think the big question first up, though, Nick, is I get a lot of feedback these days. People telling me that cold emails, they don't work. They're broken. So I wanted to hear your thoughts. Does cold emailing still work? And I kind of already know your answer because you're on this show, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this piece.
Absolutely. So I get this question all the time as well. Follow me on LinkedIn at Outbound Expert. But the commonality that I've seen, and I've built my entire business on this framework. And the reason that I was able to do that was because I learned the wrong way to do cold email. I was actually in the camp of someone who thought cold email didn't work. And the reason is that I was on an SDR team and I booked 98% of my meetings over cold calling. I got 2 meetings in an entire year over cold email, and I just tossed it in the trash as something that was a waste of time. Because when I was a sales rep, I was trying to hit my quota. I was trying to get my bonus. I was trying to get my commission. I was trying to look good for management so I could get promoted. You get it as a sales rep. What I didn't know was that you needed secondary domains. What I didn't know was something called email list validation. What I didn't know was that all of our SDRs were sending templated messages of the exact same message to 50 to 100 prospects per day from the same domain, and we had a 12% bounce rate. So looking back, I was just oblivious and ignorant to the fact that our execution was poor. It's not that the channel doesn't work. Our execution was flawed. And I'm going to go over the main things that we did wrong in that position, which led me to explore cold email further until I learned how to do it properly. And I have built outbound systems for over 40 businesses to this point in the last 3 years. And I look forward to continuing the journey.
I love that. Nick, you said one thing there that the bounce rate and the deliverability was a huge issue. So I think it's best to start maybe briefly explain what's important. But can you walk through what we should be looking for to make sure our emails are actually landing in the inbox and not in the spam folder?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're watching this right now, there's a QR code on your screen that you can scan to go to MX Toolbox. MX Toolbox is a very simple free tool you could use to check the common email records that you have on your domain. So if we're talking about DNS records, DMARC record, DKIM, SPF, all of that technical mumbo jumbo, look it up on your own time. Use ChatGPT to help you. There is way too much technicality to discuss in a 30-minute show, but you could simply go and look. And if you see flags here, that is your clue to go look further and figure it out, right? So the DMARC record was found on this one that we're showing right here. So there is something that exists, but the policy is not enabled. That isn't the worst situation in the world, but if you straight up do not have a DMARC record, look it up, add one, and your email deliverability will soar.
So use this link here. That's not affiliated in any way. It's free to use. I just put my own domain name in there. It sounds like all of this is really important. Scan that. Make sure your settings are correct. And if you don't have control over it as an admin of the systems, ping an email to your IT team because this is going to be super important if your team want to have any level of success with cold emails.
And then to just go on, right? Let's assume you have the technical setup correctly. There are healthy sending practices. right? So obviously, if you purchase a new domain and you make an email account and you send 1,000 emails that same day, you're spamming, right? Like everyone knows what you're doing. The Microsofts of the world, the Googles, Yahoos, Hotmail, whatever email tool it is, Zoho, you're not going to land in the inbox if you purchase a secondary domain, make an email account, and send 1,000 emails that same day. So what do you have to do to have proper email deliverability and sending practices? The most common thing that I see when I audit my clients' email systems is open rate tracking. That's number one. It's a vanity metric, in my opinion. Ever since Apple changed their privacy stuff with iOS 16, I want to say, anything that has a pixel in it trips the privacy filter. So the privacy filter gets tripped. It actually shows that the email was opened, even if the person didn't open the email on their own device, because the filter caught it first, because it's checking it if it has a virus or is spoofing or spamming or whatever it is before it even lands on the device. So most sophisticated, especially F500 companies, are Microsoft Outlook based, and they have very, very complicated systems to prevent spoofing, phishing, cyber attacks, right? If you include any code, that includes your email signature. If you have an image in your email signature, if you have a book a Calendly link in your email signature, if you have any links in anything and you are tracking those, you actually are landing in the inbox at a exuberantly less rate than you think that you are. So in my opinion, open tracking and click tracking are both vanity metrics. If you absolutely have to include links because your boss, if they really want you to do that, make sure you land in the inbox first with a plain text email and then send it in your follow-up. That's the best case scenario, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people use tools like Vidyard, SendSpark, Loom to send custom videos. If you are doing that, once again, I would suggest to either A, ask for permission in email one to send it, or B, send email one, plain text, and then send the follow-up with actual video. Even then, I think you're going to have a drop-off rate and deliverability, but at least you have a shot of landing in the inbox round one.
So takeaways there, real quick, just to recap. Number one, scan this QR code, check that all your domain settings are set up correctly. It's going to tell you what's not set up correctly. Get rid of open tracking. You don't need it, and it's unreliable as heck. So it's going to give you a bunch of false positives thinking your emails are getting open when they're not because of these security filters. Have several domains that you can rotate and have several accounts within those domains because you want to make sure they're healthy and limiting the number of sends per domain. And then the last one here, custom tracking domain. Quickly, briefly, what the heck's that?
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite analogy to use for this is a hotel pool, right? So I don't know what email sending tools you guys use, right? SalesLoft, we've talked, or I've used in the corporate sense. I use Instantly right now. It's my preferred. SmartLead is another one in the space that's very, very strong. Lemlist, obviously. All of these tools are relatively similar. Obviously, they have their own unique selling points, but the way that I describe a custom tracking domain is that if your email sending tool has a server that they're sending all of these emails from, you're probably sharing that server with a lot of people. So if somebody on that server does something malicious or malignant and damages that IP address or damages that server, you're bundled in with them, right? So let's say you jump in a hotel pool with 30 kids from a camp. What do you think is happening in that pool with those kids, right? It's the same idea. You want to have custom tracking domains so you have your own sending practices affecting you and you only. There are a lot of technicalities that go behind this, and this is why it is very recommended in the email space, especially nowadays, to diversify your infrastructure. Because if something bad happens to one of your baskets and all of your eggs are in that basket, you're kind of screwed. So diversify, use Gmail, use Outlook, use private custom infrastructure. You could set up your own VPNs, VPSs, all of it.
Let's get on to more of the stuff that the reps actually control themselves, the things that we can change on a email by email basis. I want to start, obviously, tracking opens, not the best practice anyway, but we still want to optimize for opens anyway, which I think happens in the subject line in preview text. So let's walk through some kind of best practices when it comes to those.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lavender is probably my favorite figurehead / company in the space when they talk about this. So 1 to 3 words. Why is that? Almost everyone, I think 80+% is the statistic, reads their emails on mobile devices. If your subject line looks like a boomer wrote an entire email just in the subject, then you're probably not getting opened because it's just too much. So in general, the way that I approach cold email is clarity. The absolute number one priority is clarity. If your recipient doesn't have clarity on what they're even reading, you're getting ignored, right? Just imagine you're walking down the street and some random person walks up to you and just starts blabbing at you. Like, you're probably going to be scared or caught off guard or whatever, and you're just going to walk away, right? Versus someone who comes up to you and has a very like formal question that they ask, you know. This one's kind of up for debate here, but the general practice, in my opinion, is to make it mimic an internal email, right? Like the way a CEO is going to email a VP of sales is how you want to appear in the inbox. Something short, sweet, not necessarily formal, right? Like the classic email in the space or subject line in the space has been quick question for the last 3+ years. It's kind of played out. But there are different variations of it that you could use, right? Like thoughts, first name, or pipeline update, kind of like you just mentioned. Email deliverability, right? If I was going to run an audit offer, email deliverability issue, stuff like that, short, sweet, to the point. And then you need to keep in mind that the first line, the preview text, is also going to show up on mobile. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. And we almost always want to lead with the prospect and what they want. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. And then obviously, Will, we could touch on some banned words here. Stay away from these.
Yeah, I think these words on the left in the trash can there are related to point 3 here. No selling, right? So I think those words that we put in the trash can there all relate to trying to sell in the subject line, which all it does for the prospect is make them go, oh, hang on, this email is going to try and pitch me something, which no one's looking for really when they're in their inbox. They're like, oh, I'd love to read some pitches today. So I think all of these words flag out that your email is going to be some kind of marketing or sales email. Emojis, free, urgent, 100%. RE is a little bit deceptive, asking for a meeting in the subject, asking them to give you attention or reply. I'd just be careful of using any of these words in the subject line. Keep it boring, keep it short. That's how I like to think about it. Having worked at Lavender, I've seen the data. I always say one word subject line is like the gold. It forces you to think in a way that's not going to give people reasons not to open your email.
Yeah. And to even add on to that, if we're going to get into the actual email copywriting, typically when I'm writing copy, I write it the first time and then I'm like, can I cut this by 50% and still keep the core message intact? Because if I can, then I'm doing it. And you guys are going to see in the actual emails that I show you, no fluff. If there's no fluff, if you're selling something people actually want, you can explain that in 6 seconds, right? Or less.
I like that. Same concept I take when I'm editing videos as well. Like, how short can you make it and still have the point come across? So let's talk about the email itself. Now we've done the subject line, made sure it's not setting off alarm bells or pitching anything up front. Let's talk about what goes in the body. So I know you said ahead of time when a prospect opens your email, they've got a few questions in their mind. Do you want to quickly run through those?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anytime someone receives an email, they're going to ask these 4 questions, like unconsciously, subconsciously, whatever you want to call it. First one, who is this? If I don't know who's talking to me, why am I talking to them, right? Why are they reaching out? What is their objective in talking to me? Do I have the problem that they claim they can solve, right? So if you're talking to me about a calendar integration, but I don't even use that, then I'm not going to respond, obviously. And then do I believe that they could solve the problem? Okay, sure. You say that you can increase my meetings by 30% with this calendar function, but I don't believe you, right? Those are all 4 questions that everyone is going to ask you. You don't necessarily have to answer them all in one email, but you should answer all of them over the course of a sequence.
Love that. So you put together a bit of a framework that does at least help you get started on answering some of these questions in that first email. Do you want to quickly walk us through the framework, and then we'll look at some examples emails that you've sent?
Absolutely. Shout out Alex Berman. He's an OG in the email space. Look him up. Yeah. He came up with this. It's called the 3 C's framework: compliment, case study, call to action. So if we're going back to the 4 questions that people have, if you compliment someone, they know that you're reaching out to them specifically because you're complimenting them about something specific to them, right? Case study. Oh, do you have this problem? We help this person solve this problem. So you're answering questions 3 and 4. Why are you reaching out? And do I believe that they could solve the problem? That's what the case study does. And then call to action is simple. If you don't ask them to do something, why would they do anything? Right? So ask them to reply. Ask them to book a meeting. Ask them if you could send them a lead magnet. Ask them if you could send them a video. whatever your funnel is at that point. In my opinion, it's almost always better to ask to send more information versus to try to book a call directly. If your offer is very strong, you could probably book a call directly. But for the most part, people don't want to spend times on calls with strangers, because I wouldn't either. Makes sense.
Let's look at some examples that apply this framework on emails that you've sent or drafted. So this first one, this follows the 3C framework. So I'm going to read it out loud, and then you can just kind of share what you were doing when you put this together, all right?
Absolutely.
Hi, hello, hey there, first name. I noticed that company name is a faith-based medical center, and I thought you might be interested in how we helped St. Peter's University Hospital increase the intake of their specialty services by 45% in just 6 months. That's one sentence, one paragraph. That's like the whole email.
Yep. Yeah. So once again, like I said, if I can cut my emails 50% or more and still keep the clarity and the core message without losing anything, I will do that, because adding fluff, saying things like "I would love to," or like I don't know, some other examples off the top of my head. But if you really look at this, it's a classic headline or sub headline. If you guys have studied copywriting, like LinkedIn profile headers, the best LinkedIn profile headers all kind of follow this same structure, where it's, hey, we helped case study company achieve desired outcome in time frame with or without pain point, risk reversal, guarantee, anything like that. So
Yeah.
there are plenty of ways that you could really spice up your offer, but that's really what you're trying to convey. If you can't tell your target prospect in an elevator pitch in 10 seconds or less how you can help them, you really need more clarity on your offer.
I love that point. And then it ends with, is this worth a chat, which is that closed CTA, not asking for the 30 minutes per se. I like this. And I also think a lot of people might see that and be like, well, it doesn't share enough. How are they going to know what we do? I think one, that's, you can use follow-up emails for that to share more flavor and context. But two, they didn't ask what you do. So why would you tell them, right? This is a cold email, not an inbound answering their questions email, right? So I think this is a great example of one that's short and gets their interest. Got another one here that you put together. Hi, first name. We recently purchased a $10,000 worth of returns, overstock, and stranded inventory from a baby and a kids brand. While lifting a finger, they turned storage issue into recovered revenue. We handled everything. It's freeing up space and capital with zero hassle. Sounds good. Let's talk.
Yeah, I love this one. This is one of the best campaigns that I ever ran. A similar style to this, obviously it was multiple campaigns, but we ended up booking 90 meetings in 90 days for this client. So It was killer. It was killer. Why does this work, in my opinion? We are future pacing. We are giving them the dream outcome. We are taking a pain that they have and turning it into a positive, right? So not only are we solving a problem, but we're actually giving them a positive and solving the problem. One potential thing that I would change in here is probably removing the $sign, but that's just nitpicking at this point.
Okay, so if we were going to change this and you want to change this and figure out how to make it work for yourself, get rid of the $10,000, because the dollar, why would you remove the $sign? I'm curious.
It falls into the spammy category. Just anything with a $sign in an email, I think just kind of comes off that way. So just from an email sending tool perspective, I probably would remove it nowadays.
Got it. A couple of next frameworks, they're different from the 3C frameworks that you did with those last that we looked at. You got like one line question examples. These are really interesting because these are like unforgivably short. Crazy. I love these as DMs. Haven't seen something this short sent as an email. So do you want to walk us through what you're thinking here? Hi, first name. You can increase profits by joining our referral partner program. Should I send you more info, Camp? Hey, first name. If we don't double the revenue from your email list in 60 days, you don't pay. Interested. That is the shortest cold email I think I've ever seen.
So one line examples. Once again, let's go back to the first point that I made. We're looking for clarity here. If they wanted more information, they can ask you for more information. I don't think there ever would be a situation where someone is intrigued or interested in your offer, and then they're just going to be like, oh, I don't have enough information, I'm going to ignore that. Like, why wouldn't they just say, sure, send me more info, or whatever it is that they need clarity on, they could ask you. On the flip side, there's also a way that you could do this where you're filtering and asking them a question and getting them to answer it first. And then you could follow up with a canned response. So I'll explain more about that, but let's just go through these examples real quick. Hey, first name, you can increase profits by joining our referral and partner program. Should I send you more info? Who doesn't want to increase profits? Like, it's super simple. It's easy. Should I send you more info? Literally all they have to do is say yes. And then I'll send them more. And it's clear, It's easy to respond to. It doesn't take a lot of time in their day. Boom, send it back, get the info. If they like it, cool, let's talk. If not, move on. Who cares? Second one, hey, first name. If we don't double the revenue from your email list in 60 days, you don't pay. Interested. This is an old framework of mine. This is probably a year plus old at this point. I probably would stay away from the or you don't pay language. This is the Alex Hormozi $100 million offers type of language. It works. It definitely works. But the types of people you attract if you have some outrageous guarantee like that are typically headaches. So I probably would stay away from it for the most part. If you do not have any social cred, right? If you have zero case studies, then I think using something like that is worthwhile because you haven't established that you're an expert in the space. But if you are an expert in the space, you should absolutely be paid like an expert. So don't do free work.
We're going to power through this last one, which looks like a follow-up framework. So reading this out quickly, and then you can share your thoughts. Hey, first name, reason for my last email is we're looking for some more partners in the franchise space. As the preferred design partner for LA Fitness and Cilantro Mexican Grill, we provide unlimited design subscriptions, helping you to scale as you open up more franchises. Cilantro is planning to open 100 new locations in Florida, and we have a platform to scale with their design needs. Makes sense to discuss? Cam.
Yeah, perfect. So this is a follow-up to a one-sentence email, right? So the first email would literally be one sentence, and the call to action is, should I send you more info? Guess what the info is that I was going to send them, right? That's email two. It's a canned response. If they respond positively, great. Here's the info. If they don't respond, here's the info anyways, right? So if we go back to those 4 questions that everyone's going to ask, you don't have to answer all 4 of them in the first email, but you should answer all of them in the sequence. And if someone is curious, they probably have one of these questions. So you should have a canned response answering all of them.
Absolutely love that. So there's a few questions in the chat. Someone here said, I'm using the subject line, follow-up needed. Guess I should change that. What do you think?
Test it, A/B test. Anything I tell you, you need to test yourself. Anyone who tells you they know how cold email works, anyone who tells you they know how anything works, I think is misguided, right? So just because quick question doesn't necessarily work as well now as it did 3 years ago, doesn't mean it doesn't work now, but also doesn't mean you shouldn't test it, right? Yeah. I always have a control and I always have variance. Keep your control if it's the winner, test variance, always be testing.
Always be testing. I like to say 80% rely on what you know works, 20% try and introduce new things as well while you're at it. What are some good AI prompts to generate actually interesting, eye-catching email templates? What's your thoughts on AI emails?
The biggest problem I see with AI prompting is actually on the user side. The tools are great. The tools are great, but it's a user error in my opinion. If you are doing an AI prompt and you're getting it to write you an entire cold email sequence with a limited amount of information, it's not going to be as good. This is the typical workflow. This is on my LinkedIn too. I literally posted about this last week. You need to get, okay, here's my target audience. Here are all the job titles. Give me the pain points for each of these job titles. What are their pains, fears, stresses, anxieties? What gets them promoted? What is an ego play for them? Once you have all that information for every single persona, every single job title, then you can get it to craft unique angles based on those pain points. Yep. But if you tell it, hey, give me 6 emails for this audience, it doesn't have enough information. You need to split your prompts up, probably 2 or 3 prompts versus just 1. Build a custom GPT if you're using ChatGPT, like feed it all the context it's going to need and give it super clear instructions on length, problems that they're going to be facing, things you can talk about, value props, etc. There's a few questions here that people are like, whoa, all lowercase subject line? That seems unprofessional. Explain, defend. Yeah. Do you think people are professional when they talk to each other in the office? Right. I don't know how you do work, but I know how I do work. We talked about pissing in the swimming pool earlier, so I feel like no. It was yeah, exactly. Right. You want to be human. You want to be relatable, right? If you are overly formal and overly professional, obviously this is kind of industry dependent, right? If you're going to doctors or lawyers, you're going to have to be a little bit more formal. But one of those clients that I talked about was in the wholesale industry or the logistics industry. These people are like, for lack of a better word, blue collar workers. They don't want your super formal language. They want to be relatable to you. That's it. Even CFOs go home and take the mick out of their partner and watch comedy shows as well. I think it's a good point. Obviously, there's a nuance here, depending on your geography. And if you're selling to really, really, sophisticated buyers, I think you need to be a little more careful. If you're selling to banks, maybe. But for the most part,
you can be yourself and be human. It actually stand out more than this generic everyone else trying to be super formal. Someone here said, so just to clarify, no links, images, or attachments in emails, especially the first one.
Correct. Yep.
Nick, where can people find you? We'll drop a link to your LinkedIn, etc. And I can find another question for you to answer before we finish.
Yeah, absolutely. At Outbound Expert on LinkedIn and Twitter. I post valuable LinkedIn content essentially every single day. So if you have questions, feel free to DM me. I respond to pretty much everyone. As far as cold email itself goes, the space is changing and the effectiveness goes through seasons, right? Google just talked about the spam rate changes a couple months ago where they're like, if you have a 0.3% spam marked rate, we're damaging your deliverability. That's 3 in 1,000 emails, guys. That's very, very small numbers. So number one, you need to diversify your sending infrastructure. If you do have damaged deliverability, it's typically better to just replace instead of trying to fix. So I'll kind of leave you guys with that.
Thanks everyone so much for attending today's very short but very dense, value-packed cold emailing show. Come back on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week because we do one of these every single day. Be sure to follow Nick. We dropped his LinkedIn in the chat, so click on that, give him a follow. Last question for you before we go. Deep personalization, over or underrated?
Overrated.
All right.
We're talking about relevance. Relevance and clarity come first. But this is a key point. I'm going to end on this. If you're talking exec level, VP level, and up, they care about company level personalization. If you're talking to managers, directors, and people on lower on the hierarchical scale, they want personal level. So think about that.
All right, man. This has been awesome. Thanks so much for jumping on with us, Nick. Peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.